Good morning, everyone. Ashwin, a good friend and an old good friend, I can say, invited me to talk to you today about a topic that is very currently hot trendy, which is lab-grown diamonds, specifically identification and screening of lab-grown diamonds. So, with your permission, I will just share my screen. Ashwin, I need you to open for me an access to share the screen.
Okay, sir, we are giving.
Yes, access given, sir.
Okay. Do you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the topic, as I said, is lab-grown diamonds and what I call screening challenges. I'll give you a spoiler right now. I don't have an answer. It's a very complex area, and there is no magic solution. Nothing is, there is no magic box that can do it all. Everything, every technique, every technology that I'm going to talk today has some limitation and some weaknesses, and we will cover it. The idea is that at the end, at least you will know what you need to have, maybe multiple techniques in order to feel not fully, but very close to fully covered. So what we're going to cover today is we will start with the correct terminology for diamonds, for lab-grown diamonds, and all of the right definitions for each one of them. Then we will talk a bit about the formation of natural versus lab-grown diamonds. We're not going to deep dive into that. I believe that most diamond courses are doing very good work on that. We will just put more attention into specific properties that are being created because of these processes. Then we will look on some visible features of both natural and lab-grown diamonds, and those that can be distinguishable, that will help us to identify the origin. There are not a lot of these, but there are some that could be very useful. And from there, we will go more to the deep science, the spectral properties, things that are unique for naturals, and things that are unique for any type of lab-grown, and the screening technologies that are based on these properties, and how we can use them to interpret the results and identify the diamonds. Before getting into the subject, just a bit about what I'm doing today and from where I'm sourcing my knowledge and experience in this area. So I'm the senior gemologist for Stellar Inc. Stellar is a wholesaler, diamonds and gemstones, the biggest in North America, as well as also jewelry supplies. And one of the things that we are doing there is a kind of a promise for all of our clients that every diamond that they are going to get from us is going to be screened and be tested, and we give our guarantee for the origin. And when I'm saying every diamond, I mean everything. From half a pointer to whatever size you want, we will manually screen every stone. And we are doing it with a very impressive screening arsenal that we have today that includes 64 screening machines of 15 different types of models. running by more than 30 associates. And we are, if we're looking on average, since 2014, when Stellar started the screening process, we averagely screened 3 million diamonds every year, which means that our knowledge base, I believe, is only second to GIA today. Apart from that, we are also running a GIA melee analysis service within our company. It's the only place in the world where GIA is running a service within another company premises. It's not exactly a fully lab. It's a service that includes automatic machines that can screen round diamonds and give us an automatic identification for their origin. We are using them mainly for natural diamonds and also getting assisted by them in some other non-colorless shades like top light browns or even champagnes. And when we're saying screening, it means that we're just doing a kind of a preliminary testing. Everything that is going smoothly through these processes is already being entered into our inventory. Everything else is being referred to our Stellar Gemological Laboratory. This laboratory is equipped with state-of-the-art spectrometers and imaging machines. And this is actually our knowledge hub, where we are testing all the unusual cases, researching them, from there building some educational materials for our teams and training more associates to help us with the screening. And we are also doing some tests for every new technology that is available on the market, every new model from every company. We are usually asking to get it, to evaluate it there. And if we find it useful and of decent results, we will adapt it into our internal service or even add it to our tools assortment that we're offering to our clients to buy. We are also doing our own researches. In the last 3 years, we did a kind of a change and become more active in the research of diamond screening, diamond testing. When we are saying diamond screening, I'm talking about naturals, lab-growns, and simulants. This is a partial list of some researches that was authored or co-authored by our team at Stellar and being published in respectful magazines around the world. So let's start with terminology. And we need, first of all, to understand what is natural diamond, what is a lab-grown diamond, what is an imitation, substitute, all of these. And for this, I have a kind of a metaphor that I like to use. And the metaphor is starting actually with my son. My eldest son is called Eyal. He's 10 years old. It's already, according to many definitions, considered a teenager. And like any other teenager, he is very pedant, no negotiations on anything. So he, several months ago, turned 10, and he knew exactly the type of cake that he wants for his birthday. It was a kind of chocolate cake with icing and candies above it. Luckily for me, it's something that you can find in every big supermarket. And the supermarket is buying it from, I don't know, a factory that I invented called Best Cakes Factory. This is the genuine thing, the real thing that he is looking for. This is the cake that he always wanted. Now, let's say that somehow I cannot tell you exactly how, because then I will need to kill you all. But somehow I stole the recipe of this factory. And I can create an identical cake in my kitchen. Those two cakes will be exactly the same by look and by taste. The only difference between them will be the origin. One was created in the best cakes factory. The other one was from my kitchen. This will be what we call synthetic or lab grown. This is actually a duplication of what we see in nature. Now let's take a different scenario. I didn't manage to steal the recipe. The only thing that I can do, and my wife can attest that my kitchen abilities are very limited, the only thing that I can create is an orange cake. Taking you back to the beginning of the story, teenager, no negotiations on anything, I cannot go with this cake to him. So I'm trying to round corners here, and I'm saying, okay, it's an orange cake, but if I will add some icing and candy above it, it will look the same. The problem is that one bite from the natural and one bite from the orange cake, and I'm in big trouble. This is what we call imitation or substitute or a fake, whatever you want to call it. This is just a simulant, something that simulates the appearance of the natural stone, but it's not the same. It can look similar to the eye, but every test that we will do, every bite from the cake, we will immediately know the real difference. Now, taking this metaphor and moving it back to diamonds, we can say that natural is the natural diamond. Some people are calling it real or genuine. I have big problem with both terms because real, except for minds and feelings, everything is real in this world. So it's not exactly the term that I will suggest you to use. Genuine is also, it's something that must come with relation to something. Even lab-grown could be genuine. On the other hand, we have the synthetic stones. Usually we will use the words laboratory created or laboratory grown, man-made. According to the Federal Trade Committee in the US, you can even use the manufacturer name together with the word created when you are describing it. For example, we can decide on a new brand, Ashwin created diamonds. It's not a problem as long as I use the word created. What we cannot use is the word cultured. Cultured is a term that was borrowed from pearls. There is a reason why pearls are being called cultured and not lab-grown. It's not the same thing with diamonds. So we cannot use the word cultured for lab-grown diamonds. With the imitation, we can use the word simulant, fake, substitute, replacement, according whether you want to go to the positive or the negative side. It's better not to use the word synthetic, because synthetic means that something was created in a lab, and imitation could be also natural. For example, white sapphire or colorless zircon can be used also as a diamond simulant. So let's talk a bit about the natural diamonds. And natural diamonds are essentially made of pure carbon. They are being created in a very aggressive, very strong atmosphere. It includes 1700 degrees Celsius with a 60,000 bar pressure. Just to give you a kind of a comparison, 60,000 bar pressure, it's an enormous pressure. The pressure that you have in your tires are 2 bars. This is 60,000. So it's something much stronger. Diamonds are also being, this process is happening through billions of years. And they are formed very, very deep underground in the only place where we can find this temperature and pressure. It's usually around 100 miles, 150 kilometers underground, and transferred closer to the surface to a place that we can mine them outside by volcanic activities, magma that just penetrate through the fissures inside the ground until it found a passage to the surface. If we are looking on the visible features, we see that usually they are being created in 4 shapes: octahedron, cube, mackel, which is a kind of a tabular triangular. You can see on the image on the right, the one at the center is the mackel. And also we have the case of water pebbles, something that was already worn and got more a shape of a sphere. The color grades are also being distributed in a way that most of the colors will be of N color. And when you are trying to move towards colorless or towards a very fancy deep color, D grade and Z grade, we see less and less diamonds in the nature, which is, it means it's a kind of a bell curve tendency. Most of the colors will be around N, and when we're going to colorless or to Z, we see less and less diamonds. Clarity is moving in a kind of a growing tendency. We see that in most of the diamonds will be around included, they will be highly included. And when we are moving towards internally flawless, we see less and less and less diamonds. When we're getting to internally flawless, it's very rare. And the inclusion that we see there are usually feather-like or crystal inclusions. Now, lab-grown are joining us in the last decade, but it's not true to say that they are here for a short time. Actually, lab-grown diamonds are known, we know how to grow diamonds since 1954, when a Swedish company, Swedish electrical company called Astea, did an experiment and created HPHT diamonds for the first time. 2 years later, GE, General Electric, did a very similar process and also managed to create the first diamonds. And the first gem quality diamond crystals were produced in 1970, 50 years ago, but it was still not in a commercial production. It was just for research. 1985, it's the first time that someone, which was Sumitomo from Japan, that started to create gem quality HPHT grown diamonds on a large scale. They, although they were gem quality, they stressed that they are not for gem quality use. And in order to make sure that it will not be used like that, they sold it only as flat rough. So you cannot cut it into stones. But it was the first time that they proved that you can create gem quality diamonds. Now, when I'm saying gem quality, is a little bit overstatement. The color was not that attractive. It was a kind of a yellow with a brownish tinge, something that, sorry about the phrase, but looked like a urine in its color. And they were still with noticeable inclusions. But it was already in a level that can be called as low gem quality. In 1999, Apollo diamond, later called Scio, has succeeded to grow the first CVD single crystal. This is another technique, a different technique to grow diamonds. And they, 4 years later, they started actually to sell it, where most of the production then was looking very brownish. And natural and lab-grown diamond from there were quite available, still not flooding the market. The big change was something like a decade ago, when there was a simultaneous breakthrough for both HPHT and CVD, where growers found the right formula how to grow diamonds without creating it with too many expenses, making it profitable. Once they overcome this barrier, they started just to bombard the market with a lot of stones, and we see this tendency growing and growing. Today, I read that there are new estimations that by the end of this decade, around 2030, they could get even to 50% of the diamond market. Now, again, taking you back to the metaphor that we talked before, when we were saying lab-grown diamond, they are the same mineral. They are diamonds like the naturals, same chemical composition, same physical properties, same optical effects. So we have two ways to grow the diamonds. We are going to look on this formation, see how they are growing. And from there, we will try to extract some properties that will help us to identify them. So the first technique is called HPHT, which stands for high pressure, high temperature. In this technique, we are using an autoclave that can hold very high temperatures and very high pressure. Sometimes they are called pressers. And inside this autoclave, we are putting a small diamond seed and covering it with a powder graphite. To this graphite is actually a pure carbon. But what we are adding also into this powder is some metal catalyst that will help us to encourage the chemical reaction to create the diamonds. Then we are heating this chamber to very high temperature that will melt everything inside. This chamber is working in a way that most of the heat is at the upper area of the chamber and lower heat is at the bottom. The idea is that everything will melt inside, but because the lower area has lower temperature, it will start to solidify there. Now, the problem is that we just now melted graphite. If we will let it cool down, it will just solidify back to very big chunk of graphite. Because we have only heat here. We need also to create the pressure that create the diamond. So what we are doing, we are pressing on the chamber, squeezing it to create the aggressive atmosphere that we need in order to grow the diamonds. And only in this case, the diamonds are actually being grown. Now, this process is very fast. We are talking about growing a 1 carat rough in 24 hours. This is, on the left, you can see a factory in China showing you these pressers. Just look at the number of the machines there and do the calculation every 24 hours how many diamonds they can create. On the right side, you can see images of some HPHT grown rough You can see the diamond seed it's the yellow crystal that from that above it we see the colorless diamond that we just grow. The second technique is called CVD, which stands for chemical vapor deposition. In this technique, we actually found a way to grow diamond without the need for pressure. So we are using a different vessel, something that we call the reactor. It doesn't need to have a high pressure. Some of them are even not completely closed, just surrounded by a metal net. So no one will put his hand inside, but they are completely in atmosphere, atmospheric pressure. Now inside this chamber, at the bottom, we are putting diamond seeds, some flat crystals of diamonds. We can put many inside, even 100 seeds in one reactor. Then we are injecting into this chamber a gas that is rich with hydrogen and carbon. Usually we're using methane gas. We're taking you back to chemistry lessons of high school. Carbon and hydrogen creating for us methane. Carbon is what we need in order to create a diamond. So what we need to do is to somehow dismantle this molecule, break them back to their atomic components. In order to do that, we are microwaving the gas. When we are microwaving it, we're actually, it's like throwing a cricket ball on this molecule, and they will be broken back to their parts and going down into a cloud that's surrounding the seeds. This cloud is called plasma. It's a very high heat, very energy concentrated area. And in this plasma cloud, all the atoms are wandering. Some of them are touching the diamond seed. They can connect into the seed as graphite or as diamonds. Most chances that they will connect as graphite because it's an easier connection. But the hydrogen that we have inside this gas will act as a supervisor, and it will knock every weak connections on the diamond seed back to the cloud. So it means that every graphite connection will be destroyed and the atoms will go back into the cloud. On the other hand, every diamond connection will be strong enough to hold it and will allow us to start to grow these diamonds. And these diamonds will be grown vertically. You see that the crystals are being grown just in one direction, upward. This is a factory in the US for CVD. Again, just look at the number of the machines and remember that every machine can run even 100 seeds at a time. The process here is a bit slower comparing to HPHT. It takes something like 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to grow the 1 carat rough. But again, you can grow 100 in one machine. On the right, you can see one of these machines closer. You can see that actually it's just surrounding by a metal net, not something that need to hold high pressures. Below that, you can see the rough, how it looks like when it's going out from the machine, still coated with some graphite on it. But then after laser sewing, we are leaving only around the area. And from that, we are polishing it. So these are the two techniques that we are using to grow lab-grown diamond. If we're looking on the visible features, first of all, just by looking on the shape of the rough, you can immediately identify them. In a rough state, it's very easy to differentiate. They are not the same as with the naturals. The second thing that you consider is that most of them today are very clean. If we said at the beginning that natural diamonds, most of them are included, and when we are moving towards IF, they are becoming rarer. In lab-grown diamonds, at least with the colorless that we see today in the market, it's exactly the opposite. You see many VVS and many VS stones, but SI and I included stones are becoming rarer and very hard to see. I can tell you that for my research, I needed some stones with noticeable inclusions to take photos. So I asked our chief buyer to find for me some low SI clarity lab-grown diamond. And it took him almost 3 weeks until he found some goods of this. It became very rare to find the bad quality. Most of them are very clean to the eye, also very colorless. If you see some inclusion inside, usually they will be like feathers, meaning cracks or fractures. In some cases, only in HPHT grown stones, we can see some metallic flux inclusion that we will talk about in a moment. Now, because they are very clean, it's causing us a lot of disclosure issues. So just giving you some numbers. 2021, last year, there were 10 million carats of lab-grown diamonds that entered into the market. Considering the fact that the entire diamond production for this year was a bit above 100 million, it means that 1 out of 10 new diamonds in the market was a lab-grown. Just think about a ring with a center stone and 20 diamond melee that's surrounding it. According to the statistics, 2 stones there should be lab-grown. Now, also we are seeing during the past 2 years, frequent reports about new sizes for stones. So size limitation is not relevant anymore. You cannot say, okay, this is a 4-carat stone, it cannot be lab-grown. HPHT grown diamond was already achieved more than 150 carat rough. CVD diamond got already to 16 carat rough. Taking the kind of an arbitrary calculation saying 50% yield, it means that every stone up to 8 carat could be lab-grown. Another issue that we see a lot is melee contamination. You are ordering a parcel of stones and it comes from with some undisclosed lab-growns inside. I'm telling you because, as I told you, our processes, we are screening millions of diamonds every year. And I'm finding all the time undisclosed lab-growns inside naturals, undisclosed naturals within lab-grown. And this is from vendors that know that we are very strict with the screening, so they're doing a preliminary screening on their side. Still, there are issues with that, and you need to be aware that everything needs to be screened. The last thing about it is about laser inscription. People have a tendency to rely on laser inscription, saying, okay, but I have a GIA inscription that everything is okay. So just to remind everyone, every person that have an access to a diamond polishing machine can erase inscription that he doesn't like. And if you have an access also to a laser machine, he can inscribe whatever he wants. There is a common fraud that we see in the market where people are buying empty certificates, reports by GIA or RGI of a stone that was already being sold and no one claimed the report with it. So they are taking this document and growing a diamond that will fit the properties inside this report and selling it together. This means that even if you are buying a diamond with a lab report, you still should screen it by yourself, just to make sure that you are fully covered. Okay, so how we can identify them? Let's start to talk about it. The first one will be magnification. So if we're looking on natural diamond inclusions, what we usually see, the skin that we can find in natural diamonds will be feather-like fractures and some geometric crystals. Sometimes they will be with discoid fractures that surrounding them. We are calling them halos, sometimes without. We can also find some irregular graffitized inclusions. They could be as spots inside the stone. They could be surrounding a crystal inclusion or inside a fracture. And we can see some breadcrumb like tiny inclusion. This is a kind of a vague term that we're using for minute inclusions that we cannot identify them with traditional magnification of gemology. Now, all of these four, the most important one is the geometric crystals. Why is that? Because all the others can be found in lab grounds. Fractures can be found in every material in the world. Black inclusions are similar, can be found in lab grown, and minute inclusions, because we do not know their nature, we don't know exactly what they are. The only thing that for now are not available in natural diamonds, in lab grown diamonds, are crystals with a geometric shape. On the other hand, HPHT grown diamond, as you remember, are being created from a powder of graphite that was mixed together with some metal catalysts. This metal catalyst that encourage the process, sometimes leaving for us some remnants inside the stone. And we are looking for these ones. Usually the most common one is the fluid-like metallic tubes that you can see here. They look long and round in their shape. Also, sometimes we will see some flat metallic inclusion with surface edge scratchings. Sometimes they will be surrounded by stress cracks. We can also find semi-transparent metallic films, or just irregularly shaped, highly reflective inclusions. But all of these four, all of them have the same property of metallic luster. And this is very important because in natural diamond, you don't see inclusions with metallic luster. If you see metallic luster, as if there is a metal inside, an iron inside the stone, it means that it's highly probable of an HPHT origin. If you have a lot of this metallic inclusion inside the stone, you can get a very unique property where diamonds are being drawn by a magnet. So if you have a lot of this, you will be able to pull a diamond up with a strong magnet. It's, as I said, lab-grown diamonds with noticeable inclusions becoming very rare. So this property not happening a lot. You really need to see a very big inclusion inside in order to be able to pull a diamond. Most of the stones that will react to this magnet are usually old production that are still circulating in the market. CVD grown diamonds can show us a different type of inclusions. Usually, mainly they are showing minute black crystals that could be irregular in their shape or square. Sometimes you will see them also inside a fracture, graphitizing the fracture from inside. In some cases, when there was an issue with the growth of the stone, we might see a kind of a vague line crossing the stone from one side to the other. And with CVDs that were subjected to an HPHT post-growth treatment to improve their color, we might see within the fracture kind of a new crystallization. It will look like a fingerprint, a property that's usually been seen in gemstones. Now, most importantly, contrarily to HPHT, where we are saying that the metallic cluster is unique, in CVD, all of these inclusions can be found in natural stones as well. So if you see this inclusion, it doesn't mean that this is a CVD stone, but you need to suspect and investigate a little bit more. So, as I mentioned, do not rely on laser inscriptions. They can be forged, they can be erased, etc. Still, if you see an inscription inside, some of this inscription can lead you to an assumption, or at least direct you to the next estimate. So many manufacturers and many laboratories usually screen all of their lab growns and then adding them laser inscription of either lab grown or LG. If you see lab grown or LG, it's likely to be a lab grown. Some other firms are using the inscription to brand themselves. For example, we have a big manufacturer in the US called WD lab-grown diamonds. And they are inscribing on all of their girdle, grown in the USA by WD. Meaning straightforward, you know exactly what you are getting. Lightbox, which is a brand of lab-grown diamonds grown by De Beers, a CVD lab-grown by De Beers, they are giving you a subsurface inscription with their logo on the table facet, not on the girdle, on the table facet, and it's a subsurface. It means that you cannot polish it out. So if you see this logo on the table, usually you can see it with a loop, you know for sure that this is a Lightbox lab-grown diamond. Another technique that can help you to identify lab-grown diamonds is a strain pattern. When we are looking into diamonds through a magnification, whether it's a loop or a microscope, usually the diamonds look for us crystal clear, of course, except for the inclusions inside. But it doesn't mean that atomically speaking, the diamond is uniformly distributed. There could be some areas where there is more stress than the others. Usually this internal stress, internal strain is caused by a plastic deformation or elastic deformation that's surrounding inclusions, or sometimes could be some other trace elements that were trapped inside. But this strain that is not exactly seen by the eye can be revealed using cross-polarized filters. When you're using the cross-polarized filter, you're taking actually two polarizing filters, very similar to the ones that we're using in cameras, and we're putting them on right angle to each other in a way that they are blocking all the light pass through, and we are placing the diamond in between them in an angle. And then we are looking into the diamonds, and we can see several different scenes. When we're looking on natural diamond, what we will see is a mess. We will see a lot of shadows inside the stone. They will be very colored, resembling the oil pattern that you can get. And they will be surrounding many areas inside the stone. They could be of a high order interference, they could be low order, but you will see this colorful and without any clear shape. These most of the natural diamonds will look like that. Some rarer types called type 2A will show you a different pattern, which is called tatami. It's a kind of a crossed hatch lines of shadows inside the stone, very gentle shadows inside. On the other hand, when you're looking into an HPHT, you won't see any interference inside the stone. The stone will look completely uniform inside. And when you are looking into a CVD, you will see an effect, a columnar effect or zebra stripes that will just crossing the stone, lines and lines inside the stone. They could be either one direction or they could be crosshair. Now, this I will add a kind of small asterisk here that some new production of CVD, some new growers creating CVD diamonds that do not show this columnar effect. They can show tatami, like the rare naturals, or they can even show patchy colors, like the common naturals. So this technique is good to some extent, meaning if you see something clear without any interferences, yes, it's an HPHT. If you see a clear lining inside, it's clear CVD. Everything else, still, I prefer you to go to another technique to test it. So when we're looking at magnification, as you can see, we have very limited use here. Inclusions are effective only if the diamond showing something. But as we said, many of the new production of lab growns is VVS. So using this technique is not helping us, and it means that we need to look for other ways to differentiate. One of the urban legends that we see a lot in the market is the diamond testers. These testers are being used for many years, and they were invented in order to differentiate diamonds from other minerals, from moissanites and from CZ. They were not intended to differentiate between natural and lab-grown diamond, and they cannot do it. So they are ineffective. Moreover, in some cases, they can even fool you and give you a moissanite reaction to some lab-grown diamonds. Therefore, we need to use more screening techniques that incorporate advanced spectroscopy. It means that we are going to look for some non-visible features that are not available else without the aid of these instruments. Before that, let's look first of all on diamonds and their properties, the spectral properties. So if we're looking on natural colorless and near colorless diamonds, they are growing over billions of years. And the key word here is billions. Why it's important? Because diamonds are made essentially of carbon, but still there are some traces of impurities that were trapped inside and creating defects in the atomic structure. The most common one is nitrogen. And nitrogen is a very, I used to call it a very social element. It's always looking for other friends. So when the nitrogen is being trapped into the atomic structure of the diamond, it's being trapped inside as isolated nitrogens that are spread all over the diamond. But through a course of billions of years, these isolated nitrogens are migrate within the structure, looking for other nitrogens to bond together. Eventually, when they are becoming closer to each other, they are pairing, and later they can even create triplets or even 4 diamonds together, 4 atoms of nitrogen together. But this aggregation, even the pairing of the aggregation, is something that takes millions of years to create. Meaning that if we see this aggregation of nitrogen, this is a natural diamond that we are calling type 1A. 98% of natural stones are like that. Theoretically, yes, with a treatment, we can create aggregated nitrogen like that, but it's almost impossible to create it in a commercially viable way. So we are not seeing these cases almost at all in lab grown. 98% of the naturals will have at least some level of aggregation of nitrogen inside. And this aggregation helps us to identify them. Because these type 1A stones have a tendency to glow, 35%, a third of them glow in blue color under long wave UV. And if we see them also glowing under short wave UV, always the long wave will be stronger than the short wave. If we are taking
Excuse me, sir. Hi.
Yes, please.
Hi. I'm so sorry for actually cutting you off, but sir, I might forget what I want to ask. So I'll just ask a couple of questions. The first one being, so can you use a polariscope to sort of identify between a natural and a lab grown? Like you said, those tatami lines are seen. Can you use a polariscope for something like that?
You can use the polariscope. Probably you will need also the assistance of magnification, maybe a loupe, or even putting it under a microscope, because you will need to a little bit to magnify the diamond in order to see the strain effect inside.
Okay, so how would you do that? So would you like hold the diamond under the polariscope and then use your loupe and see through it like that, or
yes,
how would you exactly do it?
If you can even put the loupe inside the polariscope above the diamond, just to enlarge the image. That's all.
Okay, all right. So that was one. Thank you so much, sir. And so you can see those patterns, and that identifies whether it's a man-made or a natural.
Again, please.
So with the help of that, you'll be able to tell if it's a man-made or a natural. If you see those lines, that means it's a man-made.
If you see a clear shadow lines inside a columnar effect, this is a CVD. This is actually the layers of the CVD that was grown. You see the layers inside of the strain.
Okay, all right. So I have another one. So this is actually related to the previous topic that you were talking about. So one in 10 natural diamonds is a lab grown. So when was this? So what really happens when this particular manufacturer or someone is just slipping in that lab grown diamond? Like, when did this all start, and how much of the market has been affected by that now? Because you said even laser inscriptions and everything can be fudged. And any which ways, this market's regulated, but it's not really controlled. So how would you sort of curb this issue in lab-grown and man-made, lab-grown and natural?
It's $1 million question, you know. The problem is that the market is still trying to identify itself. We don't know yet exactly where are the areas that each one of the product, natural and lab-grown, will go. We don't know the border yet. They are still kind of elbow fighting, trying to mark the border of the materials. Currently, the tendency shows that lab-grown diamonds are going towards fashion jewelry. We don't know yet where it will go. So how it will affect the market, I don't know what to answer. I need a crystal ball to answer it.
And so you also mentioned that, you know, China is doing a lot of these machines, and a lot of these factories are growing, you know, lab-grown diamonds at an enormous scale, as in like, you know, about 100 to 200 machines a day, and 24 hours it takes to make 1 carat. So if at all they want to just produce it on a very large scale and just introduce it within the market, no one would really know. So do you think it's a viable option to just stick to lab-grown right now while the market's still young, so that you can sort of profit the most out of it because the market's still learning?
I will not give any recommendation regarding manufacturing lab-grown diamond. I can just tell you one thing. From what I see, currently all the manufacturers of lab-grown diamonds are doing a kind of a race to the bottom with prices. It's just going down and down, and I'm not sure that there is a profit.
Okay, yeah, actually you're right, because the prices did come down quite a bit.
Yes,
from last year to this year.
And it's a kind of ongoing tendency.
Okay, all right. So would it be more viable to, you know, since the market's still going to adapt to lab-grown, that lab-grown be used in silver jewelry?
I think that the market is already in the process of adapting it.
Okay.
There is more and more demand for it.
All right. Thank you, sir. You can get back to your topic. So thank you so much for answering.
Sure. Okay, so the natural colors and near colorless diamonds, we talked about that third of them are fluorescing in blue, and long wave is always stronger than short wave. If we are taking them to what we call deep UV, it's kind of a short UV light, shorter than the short UV. It's an ultra short UV. We will see that they are fluorescent blue to greenish blue colors, and also sometimes giving us a growth pattern that's associated with natural origin. On the other hand, when we are looking on colorless and near colorless lab-grown diamonds, they are not bearing the aggregated nitrogen inside. They are all what we call type 2. And this means that when we are putting them under ultraviolet, they rarely glow under long wave UV, may glow under short wave UV, usually in orange, yellow, green, pink, red, but never blue. And most importantly, always the short wave will be stronger than the long wave. Sometimes it will be maybe the same intensity, but you won't find a lab grown that the long wave is stronger than the short wave, and you will not find blue glow under these sources. Another thing that we can find in most of the HPHT diamonds and some of the CVD ones is that after you are turning off the shortwave UV, they continue to fluoresce, what we call phosphorescence, for more than 10 seconds. Sometimes it could get even to 2 minutes. And if we are putting them under the deep UV, we are getting, as you can see in the image on the right, many, many different colors and options, but no blue. So we are trying to take these features, these properties of the aggregation of the nitrogen and its effect to identify the labgrowns. In order to make sure that we are fully covered and can identify every type of a lab grown in the market, we need to have all of the instruments that you see on the bottom. If you are trying to take affordable models, it will cost you $100,000. If you go in a high end, you can reach the $500,000 easily. So it means that in order to be fully covered, you need to have a lot of money and also a deep scientific knowledge to run it and interpret the results. Of course, most of the retail jewelers and independent gemologists are not able not to have these funds or this knowledge. So for these cases, we have a different solution, which called diamond screeners. Sometimes they are also being called DVIs. And diamond screeners are actually a simplified version of the spectrometers that we've seen in the previous slide that were programmed to do one test, to look for only one or sometimes two features of diamonds and give us a kind of a yes-no answer whether this feature is there or not. They cannot really identify everything for you. They are doing for you a preliminary sorting. They are showing you those that are confirmed natural or synthetic, depending on the screener, and referring all the rest to advanced testing. So it's not even a yes-no question. It's a kind of a yes, maybe. So it seems like they could be a perfect solution. So we need to characterize exactly how a screener should look like in order to find the right one for us. So we needed, first of all, to be able to identify both HPHT and CVD lab growns. We also needed to be simple to operate because we are not rocket scientists. We want it to be inexpensive, and we wanted to work on all sizes, shapes, and colors. We want to get fast results, and we also need to work on mountain stones because sometimes we are working on jewelry. How many screens can do all of these things? The answer is none. Every screener, every machine has blind spots, weaknesses, or limitations, which means that you will need to have at least 2 different techniques when you are testing diamonds. Now let's have a look on these types of screens that we have in the market. I'm not going to talk on specific models or specific brands. I'm going to talk about the technologies that they're using because many of them are actually identical and just being sold by different manufacturers. The first technique is a basic one, long wave and short wave UV fluorescence, something that many gemologists are already familiar with. In this case, we need to do 2 tweaks in order to make it more effective. The first thing, we need to use a very strong light source. It could be either an LED that is very close to the diamond when it's been excited, or a very strong bulb. Second, we need to work in a completely dark environment. It must be a kind of a black box that is not allowing any light to leak from outside, because this leakage can mask for us some very gentle effects that we are looking at. Now, in this technology, we're using long wave and short wave UV. Long wave is 365 nanometers, short wave is 254. When we're putting natural diamonds, as we said, 35% of them will fluoresce in blue color. They maybe also fluoresce under shortwave. But again, blue color must be natural. Long waves stronger than shortwave must be natural. On the other hand, if we will put lab-grown inside, they will rarely fluoresce in long wave, more likely to fluoresce under shortwave, but it will be with green, orange, yellow, red, pink, not blue. And always shortwave is stronger than long. HPHT, just reminding, will give us this effect of phosphorescence, that continuing. Now, let's look on all the possible results that we can get for this technology. So I know it's a little bit overwhelming, so try to follow me from left to right. So first of all, we see here natural stones. If they are type 1A and they are showing us blue coloration, long wave and short wave, long wave always stronger than short wave, then it's natural, there is no problem. But if they are the other 2/3 that are not fluorescing at all, we still don't know what we have. Same thing for natural diamonds that are giving us other colors. We cannot be sure with this technique. If we are looking on HPHT, short wave always stronger than long wave. If we will turn off the light, we will see it continue to phosphoresce. CVD, same thing. Short wave, stronger than long wave, but these colors are also similar to the natural colors that can be found. These and these are actually identical. And also the ones that are not glowing still are not giving us the answer. If I will put simulants inside the machine, synthetic moissanite will always keep inert without any effect, long wave and short wave. Cubic zirconia will be giving us a kind of a mustard yellow weak color under short wave. Yet, this color can be also confused with CVD. That will give us this effect, short wave stronger than long wave. So we are not sure here too. So if we are looking on this technique, yes, it's an automatic technique. It can work on, it's not an automatic technique. It's something that we need to interpret by ourselves. It can work on loose stones and on mountain stones. And in some cases, it could be also good for simulants. The second technique is called shortwave UV internal reflection or internal absorption, depending on the machine. We have two different configurations for these machines. You can see all the machines on the right. Some of them are a kind of a small cabinet where they are being opened, you are putting the diamond inside, closing it and getting the result. Or they are being used as a handheld device, like the old diamond tester in the outer appearance. And then we're just testing it on reflection from the surface. This technique, what we are actually looking is for a different effect of the aggregated nitrogen. Type 1A stones, those with the aggregated nitrogen, have a tendency to absorb shortwave UV, meaning that everything that will be transmitted, shortwave UV that will be transmitted through the stone will just be absorbed inside. On the other hand, type 2A stones that are just 2% of the naturals, but 90+% of the colorless LGDs, these will allow the light to move through them as if it was a transparent material. So these machines are actually testing to see whether the light can move through the gem. If we are looking on the results, we can see that usually type 1A, most of the stones will be identified as diamond, there will not be a problem. If they will be type 1A with some specific cases, like some specific fancy cuts, or a stone that is rich with hydrogen impurity, or a stone that has some natural irradiation damage, they could be mistakenly identified by these devices as moissanite or being referred to further tests. If we are putting inside type 2A, they will identify it as type 2A. Of course, they cannot differentiate between natural type 2A and lab-grown type 2A, but they will give you the right alert. Unless we are talking about type 2A that has been HPHT treated. And then in some cases, it's been identified as moissanite. Again, false identification. If we are looking on HPHT stones, then type 2A will be identified very easily. But we have a new production in the market. It's not new production, but it's becoming more and more prevalent, which is an HPHT that is bearing a lot of boron inside, which change its crystal defects inside, making it a kind of a mixed type stones. In these cases, we have seen stones that were identified as natural diamond or moissanite. Very, very common. With CVD, there is no problem like the HPHT. Everything is always being identified correctly and being repaired. With synthetic moissanite, depending on the model, some of them will identify it as moissanite, others will say it's a type 2, which needs as a diamond, which is type 2, which is incorrect. But with cubic zirconia, same thing. Some of the models can identify cubic zirconia as simulant. Others will identify it as diamond. So this technique is automatic. It gives us the answer. It can work on loose stones. Some models can work on jewelry, others not. And some of them are giving us partial solution for simulant. Some of them are not giving a solution at all. I'm not recommending using this technique on things that you are not sure that they are diamonds at all. It's better, first of all, to verify that the stone that you are testing is a diamond and then move to these techniques. The next technique is called fluorescence or phosphorescence imaging. In this technology, we are using deep UV. We are putting the stone into a black box, into a chamber, and we are bombarding them with deep UV, while a camera is recording the effect. And we are trying to see, first of all, on which color the diamond is fluorescing. Under deep UV, by the way, if the device is strong enough, we can force every diamond to fluoresce, not only the 35% that we see in long wave, but every diamond will fluoresce in some color. And we will try to identify it accordingly. The camera will also continue to record what happens inside the chamber after the light source is being turned off, just to make sure whether there is a phosphorescence effect there or not. So the results that we are getting in this machine usually, for type 1A, we will see blue to greenish blue color, but always the blue will be the dominant color. Some type 1A, specifically a subtype called 1AA or a 1A that is hydrogen rich, can give us some yellow to green colors. And type 2A can give us many different shades. HPHT is giving us always neonic bluish green color. Usually green will be the dominant one. But sometimes there will be a kind of a bluish subcolor on it. Now the machine is also recording for phosphorescence. If it sees a prolonged phosphorescence, it will show it in the screen and also add red marking on the stone. It could be a red marking that will be on the entire stone or only on an area within the stone. This is an artificial marking that the system is adding, the software is adding for you to help you to know that these are for sure HPHT lab-grown diamonds. Now, not all HPHT has this effect. So it means that you need to make sure that you are identifying everything correctly. If you see something neonic like this without the red marking, it still can be HPHT. CVD will give us many different colors, usually all of the warm shades: yellow, orange, red, pink, purple, yellowish green. All the colors that are considered warm shades, CVD can show. The problem is that these colors are very similar to the type 2A and to the hydrogen-rich one. So we don't know how to differentiate CVD from these cases, and we need to go to further testing. Some of the CVDs that been exposed to an HPHT post-growth treatment will look like HPHT, same appearance, but without phosphorescence. This is why we need to look for these colors. And even if there is no red marking, we need to suspect. When we're talking about moissanite, it will stay dark all the time. It's the only stone, as you can see in this appearance, that will stay dark all the time. Cubic zirconia will look dark green, but its effect will be a kind of a green rim with black in the center. There are some rare cubic zirconia that bearing what we call oxygen vacancy, that making them to be with blue rim. So an experienced eye need to know to differentiate between these blues and this blue rim. This machine is semi-automatic. It can identify automatically for us the HPHTs. All the rest we need to interpret by ourselves. It's working on loose stones, on mounted stones, and on simulants. Now, here's the tricky thing. All of the manufacturers that are creating these machines saying that it works also on diamond simulants. But when they're saying diamond simulants, they mean cubic zirconia and moissanite. They don't really check it for any other type of simulant. So this is a list of colorless stones that can be found in Stellar Gemstones inventory. And I'm showing you here the colors that you will get in this screener and the resemblance of the results here. You can see that all the red ones actually look like diamonds, whether natural or lab-grown. Now, you are gemologists. With an experienced eye, you can just take a look, looking on a colorless stone and immediately saying this is a diamond or this is a gemstone. It's about the cut, it's about the doubling effect that you can see inside. It could be the inclusions, it could be many things that over time you know how to develop and identify what is a diamond and what is non-diamond. So my recommendation here, every colorless stone that you want to put inside these screeners, first of all, take a look, make sure that you are putting a diamond inside, or at least something that looks like a diamond inside. Another technology that we have is the fluorescence spectroscopy. In this technique, we are looking for a feature that's called N3. It's a feature that's been created by the aggregated nitrogen. And this machine is looking for this effect. This effect can be created only after millions of years, meaning that this effect is only available in naturals. You can find it in lab-grown. You cannot find it in simulants. So the results here are quite easy. If you're putting type 1A stone inside this machine, it will immediately identify it with test results. But everything else that you're putting inside, whether it's a type 1A with a lot of hydrogen, or Q1AA, or type 2A, or HPHT, or CVD, or any simulant, you will get refill. The advantage here, probably it's the most accurate technology. The disadvantage, if you are getting refill, you still don't know what you have in your hand. It could be natural, it could be lab-grown, it could be simulant. And you need to go to a different machine. So it's a fully automatic machine. It works on loose, it works on mounted, it's working on simulants. If you want to know for sure that you have a lab-grown diamond in your hand, this is not a machine that can do that. Other screening methods that I will just mention briefly is we have the phosphorescence decay. It's a technique that checking the change in luminescence, change of the fluorescence of a diamond in microseconds, meaning the changes that happens in the first milliseconds of every fluorescence, something that we cannot catch it by the eye, but a camera can record it. The other technique is UV spectroscopy, which can identify for us type 1A natural diamonds, very similar to the fluorescence spectroscopy, but more expensive. It's very good to identify type 1A, but it's not really useful for identify lab-growns. And we have some devices. This is a kind of a third generation of diamond screens. This is a multi-technology screening. Devices that already combine several devices together. It could be, for example, a Raman spectroscopy together with UV transparency or something like that, that will, each technique will cover the other and will reduce the risk of error. On the disadvantage side, usually these machines are a bit more expensive because of the components. So which instrument you need to buy? It's actually a question that you need to ask yourself. You need, first of all, to assess your needs. Are you going to work on loose and mounted jewelry? Because some screeners cannot do mounted. Are you going to check single items, or you need to check volumes? Because some machines need to do it one by one, while others can do bulks. Do you need something manual or automated? Do you need it also to identify simulants? Are you a gemologist that has some background, or are you completely green and doesn't know anything about screening? And do you have the ability to interpret it by yourself, or do you need the machine to do the results for you? All of these questions you are the only one that can answer for yourself, and accordingly find the right machine. Now, there are many machines in the market. I'm aware of that. So another tip that I can give you is using a thing that's called the Assure project. Assure project is an initiative by the Natural Diamond Council. They created a program where every manufacturer can submit his diamond screener machine into a third-party laboratory, testing these machines and publishing the results online. What they are doing, they are testing these machines against 1,000 natural diamonds of different types and subtypes, 200 lab-grown diamonds, and if the manufacturer claims that this machine is working also on simulants, it's being tested also against 200 simulants. There are two versions for this project. There is one, the Assure one, that was launched in 2019. And this year, the Natural Diamond Council launched the Assure 2.0. Assure 2.0 is just an updated version of the project. Now they're using updated samples of new lab growns that are available in the market, and also some lab growns that they forecast to be soon available in the market. And they also added in Assure 2.0 the tests of mountain stones and the instruments consistency of results, see whether a stone gets the same results over and over. Now, very importantly, the Assure program does not endorse or rank any of the machines. They're just publishing the numbers. One of the things that you will see in many diamond screeners that are available on the market is this label that you see here on the side, Assure Tested. Assure Tested doesn't mean anything. It just means that this machine was submitted to the Assure program for testing. It doesn't mean that the results were good or that Assure is recommending on it. One of the problems is that manufacturers are looking on the Assure tests. They have many numbers inside. One of the numbers looks very good, very complimenting to their machine. They are taking only this number and then marketing their machine. And then suddenly you hear, our machine got 100% accuracy in Assure. There are almost no machines that got 100% accuracy in Assure. And those that got 100%, usually there is a catch there. For example, they are referring everything. So every manufacturer that's telling you, my machine got 100%, you need to ask in which category it got 100%, or better, just go to the Assure website, just Google Assure Diamond, and you will see it first in the results. Look for his machine, open the Assure report, and see exactly the real numbers that it got. So to sum up, I will also say that every diamond should be screened today, and you need to use more than one screening technology. You need to be aware of the limitations and the weaknesses for every device that you have. If you know that your device has a weakness in a specific type of stones, every time that you are getting these stones, take it to a different machine. If you are getting conflict between the results, go with the machine that is known to be more accurate in this type of stones. And if you still have inconclusive or doubtful results, send it to a laboratory for testing. Not every independent gemologist go to the big laboratories, those that are equipped with the right machinery and have the sufficient knowledge to differentiate for 100% accuracy. I'm always finishing this presentation with this quote: it takes only one undisclosed lab-grown diamond and bad publicity, you can call it also shaming, to ruin one's business. You need to protect your business from every stone. Thank you very much, and I will take questions now.
Hi, sir. Harsh here.
Yes, please.
So since there is no one device for detecting lab-grown, and I'm sure future technology would come into play where all of this is happening. My question is, mounted jewelry, you can't really make sure, because you can't really look at each and every diamond to find out whether it's lab-grown or not. And also, you can't really, like on a retail perspective, so I'm a retailer, so on a retail perspective, you can't really look at everything. Uh, what in your experience would be the ideal go ahead in your experience? Like this can be your opinion to go ahead with just sticking to one, or sort of starting two lines of one being lab grown and one being natural. Would it still affect your business if at all? You've seen it in a couple of businesses abroad or elsewhere.
Are you talking about line of
Jewelry. Jewelry. I'm talking about in terms of retail jewelry.
So I can tell you what I'm seeing in the market. I'm seeing more and more jewels that are either of completely lab grown inside or have a mix. For example, central stone grown melis are naturals or vice versa.
Okay. All right. And since prices are coming,
as mentioned earlier, the area of lab grown versus natural is still unclear. They're still fighting between them, trying to take portion of each one. They are cannibalizing each other market. There is no clear border saying this type of jewels going to be mainly with lab grown, this type are going to be naturals. Every is trying to get a little bit more. We still do not have a clear border. So there are a lot of options here. I see everything. Lines of lab growns, line of naturals that trying to look the prestige, original thing, and also the lab grown that trying to be marketed as the modern, the new world. Usually, the younger generation been attracted by the lab growns. They're seeing it as a kind something that, although I'll not agree with it, but environmentally friendly. This is the way they're seeing it. And jewelers are just, playing all over the field right now.
All right, so thank you. And I just want to know if at all this idea would be viable. See, you can cut diamonds in any possible, and nowadays GI is doing, bull-shaped, bull-horn-shaped diamonds, as in it looks like a bull's face, the diamond. So, is there scope for that being a very niche market in lab-grown, where you can cut it according to whatever you like a lion's face or anything else, and start that with lab-grown? Do you think it's a viable idea right now, since it's still in acceptance stage? Like sell lab-grown diamonds with a special cut.
So from what I'm hearing, there are some already projects that they are working on, some growers on new special cuts for lab grown. Still, most of the market is not there yet. Most of the market are looking for the traditional shapes.
So what cuts are these lab growns that you mentioned, sir?
I'm seeing mainly, of course, rounds, ovals, princess. I'm seeing some marquise.
These are traditional shapes.
Again?
So these are traditional shapes. So any particular different kind of a cut that are only specific to lab grown?
Not that I'm aware of. I see some things, but they are still not in big production. But I have seen some stars and some many unusual shapes, but not something that is really aligned. Just more kind of proof that we can do that. Most of the work, at least from our point of view, are in traditional shapes. Even, less traditional, like tapered baguettes, but still are very in demand, also trapezoids, things that are not the classic traditional, but still very common, you can see. All the really crazy shapes, I'm not seeing them yet in the market. I'm hearing a lot talking about that they are going to be the future, but I'm not seeing them in the market right now.
All right. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Hello, Guy.
Yes.
Hi, this is Ashwin here. I have one small question. Synthetic diamond like CVD and HPST won't have this particular inclusion, right? Indented natural and natural, like the trigons. You can never find it in CVD and HPST, correct?
So there is one report from something like 7 or 8 years ago by HRD of a rough lab grown with trigons on it. Since then, it haven't been reported again. So I don't believe that they are available. In theory, they already proved that it's possible, but I haven't seen any other reports, not even GIA reported on that.
Correct. Like, for example, natural diamonds, they have this cubic system, but whereas a CVD, when it is growing, it's not into cubic system. It's a different system, right? It's a layer system, I think. Yeah.
Yes, with CVD, you won't see it, but HRD already found HPHT with trigons.
HPST with trigons. Okay.
Yes.
And how to differentiate between like a CVD grown and then HPST treated? Like in market, they use like double methods. They make CVD and they do HPST treated. Like.
Okay, so if we are talking about in screener level, then if you are using the fluorescence imaging, the one with the black chamber that you are bombarding with deep UV, usually the CVD that are not treated will show you red or purple colors, usually the hot colors, while the HPHT treated CVDs will look more greenish or even bluish, like a HPHT. This is just a kind of a very preliminary sorting. The only real way to make sure that you have an HPHT treated CVD is by going to the hardcore spectroscopy. You need to go to photoluminescence and you need to go to diamond view to make sure what you see here in the structure.
Thank you, guys. It's only 2 questions.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, it's Shruti. Sir, I want to ask you a question. So we find trigons in diamonds and corundum as well, right? So what kind of pattern does a diamond have? What kind of a pattern of a trigon does a diamond have? How can we differentiate between a corundum's trigon and a diamond's trigon?
Okay, so again, as said, there are no trigons in lab grown. It's something that was reported one time 7 years ago. Since then, no one haven't seen it again.
No, sir, so in corundum, sir, not in lab-grown diamonds, sir. Sir, in corundum.
In corundum?
Yes, sir.
So we are talking about the triangle growth marks that you see on corundum. This is the question?
Yes, sir.
The triangle on corundum is something, it's a growth feature. It can be found on any of the faces there of the prism. Something that is belong, again, with growth structure. One thing that you can use to differentiate between trigons seen in gemstones to the trigons seen in diamonds is the direction. The trigons in diamonds are always pointed the opposite direction of the face. If you are looking on the octagon face, the octagon shape has triangle face. All the trigons on it will look on the opposite direction, pointing to the base of the triangle and not to the point. With gemstones, it's the opposite. All the trigons will go together parallel to the face.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
I'd like to know if we can detect inclusions due to the use of magnesium-based catalysts in HPHT.
Most of the inclusion that you will see in HPHT will be of iron and nickel remnants, usually, not magnesium.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so if there are any other questions, then thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. And Ashwin, if there are more questions later, you can always send it to me.
Guy?
Yes.
It was a real valuable session that we had. Each and every information that we received is like pearls of wisdom. And thank you so much for this valuable time. And yes, I will be speaking to you again. And let's see how we can do benefit all together.
Sure. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir.